Thank you for joining Think, Build, Launch podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Sertl. This program is an extension of Marl Startup Studio. Marl Startup Studio was started to support students and first-time founders of all ages while they're at the idea stage of their startup. We believe there are so many ideas in our community that get missed simply because people don't have the structure to take their idea into an actionable plan. And that's exactly what we do. Before I jump into today's program, I want to acknowledge all of the students going to college across the country. I want to send a shout out to my alma mater, University of Colorado, Rochester Institute of Technology, where I teach, University of Rochester, Nazareth College, St. John Fisher, and all of the colleges. In fact, there are 800,000 students in the greater Rochester and surrounding areas. Welcome to all of you. Let's go. Today, I'm so excited. We're going to welcome our guest, Matt Foley. Matt is the managing director of startup incubation at NextCorps, where he advises over 70 startups on their journey from ideation to their exit. He also is a serial founder with 3 successful SaaS products that are currently in the market. His professional expertise is in customer discovery, and he has over 20 years of experience that he actually has a newsletter that we will talk about at the end where you can reach him, and he shares all of his experience about how to actually listen and learn so you can develop products that both people will use and you'll probably get funding because they will be able to scale. So with that, Matt, thank you for being here this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So first and foremost, I'd like to learn about your journey, how you came from your own founder story to being the resource that you are at NextCorps here in Rochester, New York.
Yeah. So I guess I'll start kind of way back in the day. So I kind of had an inkling that I wanted to get into entrepreneurship and start my own company when I was in college. But I figured I should probably go and get some experience before I did. So I went and graduated with a business degree and got a job in market research. It's pretty random. I don't think I actually took any market research courses in college, and worked at a firm called Harris Interactive for 3 years. And then I said, and I did at the time I was just traveling around the world doing customer discovery interviews and focus groups and things and testing out new product concepts and helping companies find places where they could build new and innovative products. And so I kind of cut my teeth doing that and got really good at doing that. And I said, I can do this on my own. So I left and together with a friend, I started up we did user experience research mostly around software products because that's a specialty that I developed and I really like software. It's kind of a fun industry to work in. So did that. And then this was 2006-ish. Facebook started to get big and I said, this is going to change the way that we talk to our customers and listen to our customers. This is going to give us a new avenue to do that. And so I started a company called Plugged In. And what we did was we built private online communities and social networks to help generally larger brands collaborate with their customers and co-create new products and services. So we would invite like a few hundred customers into this, special software that we built. And then we would, co-create new products with them. So it was kind of a cool product. And then I ran that for 5 years. We had a lot of really big customers. T-Mobile was our first customer. And then we had Kraft and Dell and Microsoft and General Mills and all these big brands. And then 5 years later, I actually exited. We, out of the blue, got 3 acquisition offers. And so I exited that business. I stayed on for an earn-out for a bit. And then at the time, I couldn't work because I had a pretty nasty non-compete from exiting the business. So I got involved with the startup community in Rochester. I said, I want to help out other startups. And so I started kind of coaching and helping entrepreneurs. And I realized I know all this stuff about this customer discovery work. And this is where a lot of entrepreneurs, they either don't do it enough or they really struggle doing it. So that's where I got involved with startups. And at the time it was High Tech Rochester and now it's NextCorps. So did that and continue to do that to this day by helping to run the incubation program at NextCorps. And then since then I've launched 3 SaaS products. So I love building and designing software in addition to doing that kind of discovery work. So that's my journey and kind of how I got involved with helping startups today.
What I love, especially for the students that are listening to this program, is that your career and your, what you studied ended up almost being accidental. If I hear you, like you kind of went on a path and what you were curious about led to the next clue and the next clue. Like, it sounds like a very passion query based journey, and that your earnest, passionate quest allowed you to create the kind of value that could be seen by big brands. Like, it's not just scalable brands. It's like big brands. And I think that's what people think, that they're going to school and they're following a syllabus and they're getting their degree. It's like adding that real authentic curiosity to it is what's going to also help it explode. For those of you that may be listening out of the field that we're in, SaaS is software as a service, similar to when The Graduate came out and the future was plastics. Right now, it seems like in our world, in the startup world, the future is software. Getting back to Matt in this conversation with us, Matt, tell us about the Embark program and what you've learned about the program and how you might be shifting the program for the future class that may be coming up shortly.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me, I guess I'll start by explaining where the concept for Embark came from, because it's actually related to my own journey, the question you asked earlier. I was and still, to a degree, still am a non-technical founder. So somebody that I didn't learn to code in college or anything like that. I didn't take a computer science degree. And so, but yet I've built and sold software companies. And I think and as a result, I've kind of struggled a bit. And it's difficult if you're a non-technical person, but you have an idea for a software product. You've identified a problem in a market, you've gone out and done all that discovery work, but then you want to build a piece of software to solve that problem that you've identified, and that's a challenge. It's very difficult. And so I taught myself to code. I don't do it very well, but in the last, I'd say 5 years, there's been this trend towards what's called no code, and it's basically tools that help non-technical people actually learn how to build software products that they can launch and scale and make recurring revenue on. And the platform that I use and recommend and like is called bubble.io. So the idea for Embark came from, we know all of these non-technical founders here in our region and really throughout the world, and they're struggling to build software products. Let's put together a program that helps them learn how to use these tools to build and grow their own software product. And so that's what Embark is, and that's where the idea came from. And we've run it. It's currently in its first cohort. We've applied for funding to extend it, but we learned that it is tricky. It's not for everyone. Learning these no-code tools, there's a bit of a learning curve, but if you can get over the learning curve, it can be incredibly powerful, because you can build a lot of and quickly prototype software products. So that's where it came from and where it's going.
I think we need to figure out how to get you in front of more liberal arts majors. Because the idea that I love is that at one point people thought innovation lived only in product management or technology. And if you think of the world that we're in is so complex, and there's just so many smart people that are probably just in the way of living their life, coming across ideas that everyone would value. But I agree with you that the technical competence is an inhibitor of people to take their ideas as seriously as they can to get the traction that they need. So I'm so thankful that you're doing this program, and I'm so excited about the people that can get exposure to the skill sets that you provide. It's great. Just talking about what's scalable across all domains is leadership and mentorship. So I would really love to learn two things. One is maybe a mentorship conversation that impacted your own journey, and then some of the best advice that you give those that you get an opportunity to make a difference for.
Yeah. So I when I first started with High Tech Rochester, now NextCorps, I was an entrepreneur in residence. So this was after I had exited my company, and so I came in as an EIR. And I worked with other EIRs, and we would often talk shop. It was great, and we would kind of mentor each other in our own ways. And so I worked with a person named Don Galini, and he was pretty influential in some of the conversations I had. He was also an EIR at NextCorps, and he was just great at asking the right questions, kind of digging through. and getting to the heart of the issue. So that was pretty influential for me. Having come out of having one success and trying to duplicate that, that can be a challenge. And he had been through that same journey. So it was nice to talk to somebody who had been through that and could challenge me on my views. And then I think for me, in terms of the mentoring conversations, it's just all about asking good questions. When I first started mentoring and coaching startups, I used to just prescribe advice because I would see how I had screwed something up in the past and how I fixed it. And so I'd say, here's what you need to do. And now since then I've learned, it's all about asking the right questions instead of just blindly prescribing advice based on your experiences. And so now every conversation I have, I just try to dig deeper with questions and questions and questions, which is nice because that's my background anyway in doing all those customer interviews. So it's kind of like I get to use those experiences and skills to help startups. So.
Thank you. That the first, when you talked about the best advice that you had gotten, I love that you kind of hacked the question because it truthfully was peer-to-peer, right? And I think that I love your point about that is just that so many times we used to think about mentorship. There's a mentor, there's a student, there's an apprentice. And I really think, to your point, now there's so much of a blur and the peer-to-peer learning is just so essential, which I think is great. And when you talked about how you advise people, I love that you talk about failure. I think so many people are risk averse and so many cultures are actually afraid of talking about and leveraging failure. And it's so exciting to hear how transparent you are in your own journey and what worked and what didn't work. And I think more people hearing your story and your ability to talk about what you learned, I think will help all of us actually have a greater threshold for risk taking, which is essential for value creation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, there's so much to be learned from failures. And I think I wouldn't say it's something necessarily to be celebrated, but it's certainly something to be shared. Nobody likes failing, but it's not something that you should be ashamed of. And you should share those and share those with peers, because that's where, we see that at NextCorps, where the founders will come in and say, here's what our challenges are. And we work in small groups to kind of help each other through those challenges. And so, I think it's cultural. I think it's also a bit regional. I think I notice in different startup communities and ecosystems, some startup ecosystems are a little better about addressing failure and being open and honest with it, and others not as much. But I think there's nothing. And I also own and operate those 3 SaaS products of my own, and I'm constantly trying new things and making mistakes with those, and so I share those with the founders as well. So there's nothing. It should be open and honest about some of your failures and
yeah, it's so exciting that, and again, I probably use the word exciting way too much, and I need to work on listening to the program. But what is very useful is a better word about what you do is that you're not doing something that you've done. You're teaching what you're doing, and your level of credibility is in synchronous time. The struggles that you're having are synchronous. The customer discovery that you're learning is synchronous, and you're building with people, not telling them what you've built. So I think that's really helpful. You alluded to this a little bit, but tell me more about entrepreneurship in Rochester and what you've seen and what you think we need as we continue to grow and get more national presence.
Yeah, I mean, certainly when I first started, so after I had my exit and I got involved with the startup community here in Rochester, the degree to which it has grown and changed since then is just incredible. Like the level of activity. Back then we were working with, at NextCorps at least, we were working with maybe a dozen startups. I mean, now we have over 70 and a number of different programs, for photonics and optics companies, for manufacturers, and you name it, and clean tech and software. So a lot of that did not exist back in the day. There's more organizations, there's more collaboration between the organizations in town to support the entrepreneurs. There's better connections between the schools. I'm seeing more collaboration between U of R and RIT, and then bringing those students into the fold and getting them involved with startup groups in the ecosystem. There's success there. I think it could always be happening faster. We'd like to see faster progress on that front, but I'll take, progress over perfection. And I think we're moving in the right direction. And it's always good to just see new perspectives, new organizations, new thoughts, new programs to support entrepreneurs. So
that's great. You've been listening to Matt Foley from NextCorps. You can follow him in two places. NextCorps is NextCorps.org. Also, he has a newsletter about his customer discovery processes. I'd like to thank Startup Grind Rochester, Upstate Venture Connect, Upstate Capital of New York, NextCorps, RIT, and University of Rochester for your partnership with the Marl Startup Studio. And all of this collaboration has created a wonderful tipping point here in Rochester. Finally, I'd like to thank our producer, Scott Fitzgerald at Rockvox Studio. If you have an idea and want to know more about our program, please connect with me, Jennifer at marlaccelerator.com. Please subscribe to our program, and we'll continue to provide information and inspiration about taking your idea from a concept to a business. This is Jennifer Sertl. Thank you for joining us.